Hi, my name is Amanda Gustin, and I'm the Director of Collections and Access at the Vermont Historical Society. Today, I'm going to talk to you about some really fun items from our collections. These are calendars, health calendars specifically, produced by the Women's Christian Temperance Union from roughly the 1880s to the early 19-teens. The Women's Christian Temperance Union was founded in 1874 to advocate for temperance, which to them meant temperance and moderation in alcohol consumption. Temperance is different from prohibition. Prohibition means the total stop to all alcohol consumption and sales. Temperance was not a new movement in Vermont. It had been around since the earliest decades of the 19th century in various forms, and actually, statewide prohibition passed in 1853. Now, the Women's Christian Temperance Union, when they formed in the 1870s, they were going after national prohibition and national laws around the sale and consumption of alcohol. But what's really interesting about them is that they provided an avenue for a lot of women to get involved in the political process, and they actually saw women's suffrage, women gaining the right to vote, as part of their plan, because they believed that the more women who had the right to vote, therefore it was more likely that they could achieve their end goal of banning alcohol. You may argue that it's not a coincidence that both women's suffrage and the amendment banning alcohol in the United States happened right around the same time. So the Women's Christian Temperance Union was interested not just in moderation and banning of alcohol, they were interested in a lot of public health movements generally, and that gets us back to these calendars, which are, as I described, health calendars. On this one, for example, it says, "Health in the home is health in the nation." They explicitly tied public health and their very specific definition of what was healthy to a kind of morality. They believed that if you followed these health plans, you would be a more moral person, and this comes out of their belief that alcohol caused people to behave in immoral ways, and that's what they were ultimately arguing against. So these are calendars, but they're actually kind of meal plans. When you look at the specific dates, every day of the year has a couple of things, and they vary a little bit across the years, but this is the general layout. Every date has a pithy saying, some kind of advice that you could take and think about for that day. And then they have actual meal plans for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Most days also have a recipe for producing some kind of food in a more healthy manner. And then each week, there might be a broader description of something like a home remedy or a piece of household advice. And really the general thesis here is how to live a more healthful and, subsequently of course, a more moral life. These would have been produced for anyone to hang up in their home, tear off, go to the next week, and they would have been widely distributed. Most of the ones that we have are explicitly named as produced by the Vermont chapter of the Women's Christian Temperance Union, and this one actually in 1892 was published right in Brattleboro, Vermont, although they were probably using some kind of a national template that had been handed down by the national organization. So the Women's Christian Temperance Union actually still exists today, although we don't have any examples of these calendars in our collection going much beyond natural prohibition. So I think these are particularly fascinating because they show the ways in which different movements, different social movements of the 19th century were tied together, and they had alliances to move their ideas forwards in ways that we might not always expect or anticipate today, and it shows you just the kind of culture that everyone was living in and discussing at any given time. Thanks for joining us today. To learn more about the Vermont Historical Society and its collections, please make sure you're following us on social media or visit our website at vermonthistory.org.